Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an Act 3 build guide for MAELLE in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So MAELLE becomes extremely overpowered in Act 3, and she can do things like this where she pretty much will one-shot most encounters once you get her weapon upgraded to a good level. So you can see there, one-shot the Lampmaster, incredible. With MAELLE, she does have some very powerful skills. So Stendhal being the one that's able to one-shot most bosses, this was nerfed by 40%, but it's still extremely powerful of a skill, so this is going to be a good one. It also deals void damage when there's some bosses in the late game that are very weak to void damage, which makes this a lot easier. Removes self-shields and applies defenseless as well, but it's very powerful. Now, another one that's really important is the Swift Stride here. So we do have a weapon that's going to start us in Virtuose stance, but this is how we get back to it. The target does have to be burning, and if you have the right setup, your team is likely going to be providing a lot of burns, so you don't have to worry. Now, percee here is a very powerful skill. This uses only 2 action points when you're in the Virtuose stance, and it deals triple damage if a target is marked. This is the early game best attack. It's still really good if you're using shots to be able to apply marked for yourself, because the damage from this is going to be really nice. Momentum Strike is the other one. This does cost 7, but if we're in Virtuose stance, this will cost 4. Similar thing to percee there. If we have higher action points, we can use this skill instead. Typically, we want to apply marked and then use one of the 3 skills. Stendhal if we got 8 action points, Momentum Strike if we have 4, and percee there if we have 2. So those are the big ones. Now, we also like to have Flare Fury here. So if we're in a Virtuose stance, we'll stay in Virtuose. The big deal with this one is it's going to break stance. If the boss is close to getting broken and stunned, this is going to be the skill to do it. It'll keep us in a Virtuose stance. And with the right Pictos, we get to act again, and it'll apply mark so that once we break posture, we can use Stendhal, percee, or Momentum Strike to basically one-shot the boss. I also like to have Gustav's Homage here. So Gustav, high single target lightning damage, 8 hits, increased damage to marked targets, and does not remove marked. This is also a good one, but the Stendhal is just going to be better. I just like to have this one here just for theming. But you could also, if you want to, add the Spark there. If you're fighting solo and you need fire setup, you could use that one. However, that does increase the amount of times that you do have to do attacks. Typically, Swift Stride will get you into the stance right. Now for Pictos, we want to make it so that we can get our critical rate over 100 or up to 100%. If it's over, that's fine too, but I'm using the charging critically. This is 20% chance of it, or 20% gradient charge on critical hit. Where this is big is because we can get into Virtuose stance by using the single target or the single usage of the gradient on that attack. So that's really useful if you want to continue the carnage with MAELLE. I also have second chance here, revive with 100% health. This is just a very useful Picto to have, but it gives us critical hit rate to bring it up to 100%, and it gives us enough health to survive maybe 2 attacks, so that's good. And then I also like the quick break here at level 31, gives us 37% critical hit rate and speed and defense are going to buff up our overall attack power, which is nice too. So quick break will give us the ability to play again after breaking a target. So if we have Flare Fury, which keeps us in Virtuose stance, we can then start kicking complete butt with that. It's very powerful. Now, another thing that we want to have on top of that is the combined with Gradient Break here gives us 50% of a gradient charge upon breaking a target. We can basically get another gradient charge just from a break alone. And the Marking Break, which will apply mark on break. As you can imagine, we break a target with Flare Fury, we get to go again, we get mark applied, and we also have the gradient charge built up. So the next turn, we're just going to continue to steamroll them. Now, the rest of the ones, Augmented Aim, free more aim damage is good because we want to apply mark ourselves if we don't have it on the enemy. Base shield will give us a +1 shield. Shields are nice on MAELLE because she doesn't have a lot of health, so it's good to have that extra layer of survivability. Apply burn on free aim shot, just a good one, and breaking shots will give increased break damage, which is nice. Charging mark, 20% of a gradient charge on hitting a marked target, which we're going to apply with the if we break targets, stun the target. Energizing or charging weakness gives a 50% gradient charge on hitting a weakness. Dodger, enough said. Energizing attack gives us a +1 on AP on a base attack, although we don't always want to use base attacks, so anything related to base attacks you can take off and instead use like First Strike, which just breaks the she can go first and basically one-shot most bosses. Energizing Break gives 3 action points of breaking a target. Energizing Shots has a 20% chance to give us our action points back on free aim because we want to apply marked with that if the target's not marked. So this will allow us to continue shooting more, just RNG. I also like to get +1 AP on battle start. All of these work great. You can also get the second one as well. First Strike, full strength, 25% increased damage on full health, as we want to have that shield up to keep our health full, and then we can do that increased damage. Healing Share, receive 50% all heals. You don't have to take that one, but it's nice if you got someone like Verso who's like immortal and then can continually keep fueling her with heals. Gradient Break gives us that 50% gradient charge. 30% increased damage until a hit is received by Immaculate. So again, if we go first, we can use Stendhal and basically one-shot anyone. Marking break, apply mark on break, marking shots, which is huge. Being able to do a bunch of free aim shots and apply marks so that we can do our extra damage. Powerful mark, gain powerful on hitting a marked enemy for increased damage. Painter converts all physical damage to void damage. This is actually huge on a few bosses. Use this sparingly. You do need to apply it based on what you're fighting against, so that's a good one to have. Painted power, we need painted power always on. Quick break, play again on breaking a target again. Super useful. Rewarding mark, 20 plus 2 action points on dealing damage to a marked target once per turn. Again, this continues to keep acting if we, accidentally break it, if we hit a marked target. Plus, this one gives us a revive. Stay mark, 50% chance of applying mark whenever we hit a marked target, which is massive. We really want to have that one on. Solidifying, plus 2 shields when the character's health falls below 50%. Really useful for just surviving 2 extra hits. It gives you a bit of survivability when you might have messed up a dodge prompt. Weakness gain, plus 1 action point on hitting a weakness, which is nice. And accelerating shots, giving the chance of getting rushed on a free aim shot. I also like to have the augmented counter. If you're going to do a lot of parries, getting that extra damage is nice. You can go with the augmented counters here to give yourself a plus 150 to the damage. She can literally do millions of damage on her counter, which is huge. There's some bosses where that's going to be very useful. Breaking burn, 25% increased break damage on burning enemies. We're always going to have them burning. Charging critical, I went over. You can go with cleansing tank too if you find that she's getting taken out quickly. Or you can just go with the even augmented first strike, 50% increased damage on the first hit. If we're able to get into a combo counter, just open Stendhal, that can be very devastating. 3 action point on killing an enemy. Only use that don't use this against bosses typically. Critical moment, 50% increased critical chance if health is below 30%. We don't need that once our critical hit chance is up high enough, so we can use Breaking Death, which is nice because fully charged an enemy's break bar. If we end up going down, we have a few shields to keep us from going down, but if we go down, we have our self-revive up, and this will break the target, then we can follow with Flare Fury after a gradient charge. So it becomes really powerful. The Pictos that we got there make this really useful. And Medalum will be our best weapon here by far. This starts you in Virtuoso stance. You can get this from Golgra and Act 3. Other good options or whatever is best available, really. Once you get to Act 3, every weapon scaling is going to be pretty crazy. The Medalum is kind of interesting because you can receive healing from your burns, and this one is pretty fun if you want to go with a fire-based build. But Medalum is by far her best weapon here, so to see what this looks like in combat. So we start off by going first, and we got a target marked from Verso there, and what this means is we got a few choices. Stendhal is going to be the biggest damage, so I'd recommend using that. Even though Momentum Strike with 4 action points is quite powerful, you're going to see here Stendhal can hit for an insane amount of damage. Now this is a pretty tough boss, and we were able to one-shot it like that. So this is in the battle tower, and these fights are usually a little bit more challenging, but even so, we were able to fully take out that boss. And right now, for example, we're stanceless, so we can use Virtuoso Strike there to get ourselves back into it. So that's a nice thing. This is extremely useful because this attack itself is quite strong. You might end up taking out some trash mobs with it, but then we're back in Virtuoso stance and we can act again. Now, that shot was more than enough to take out the target, but what we wanted to do, if that didn't work, is try to apply marked with our free aim shot and then take him out with our powerful attacks. And here's another poor fool of an enemy. Already got 1 gradient charge, so if we weren't in Virtuoso stance, we'd get ourselves into it. Stendhal, 8 action points. We want to have enough action points at the start of combat that we're able to use that attack if possible. Otherwise, Momentum Strike, if the target's marked, will do a ton of damage too. But Stendhal, again, is just the best skill for MAELLE, so if you got the action points, you may as well use it, because you can see there, it's good at one-shotting most enemies. Now, if you want more of a challenge, you'd go without using that skill and use the Momentum Strike there. Now, we can probably one-shot this boss too, but I'll show you. Momentum Strike also does quite a bit of damage. You're able to one-shot with it. You always want to have mark applied for MAELLE, and she just does a ton of damage. And again, setting up as much marked as possible is going to be the way to success here. Now, we could use Flare Fury here, but we're probably able to one-shot one of these, so we're just going to go ahead with a Stendhal here. Again, once you get to the higher levels, this is pretty much the strategy you're going to use, because you can hit for near 10 million on a shot. Like, that is just crazy. And we had that target stun there, so we can literally just skip our turn here, get MAELLE to go again, Virtuoso Strike to give ourselves that, give ourselves the Virtuoso stance back, and you can see there, it will remove the marked, but the nice thing is, we got 9 action points now, so we can play the roulette, and we applied it first attack. Now, that's typically what you want to do. You're trying again to get Stendhal, Momentum Strike, or the percee there, so getting marked up just allows you to one-shot, so you want to get that F, if at all possible. So yeah, MAELLE is incredibly powerful in Expedition 33. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave in the comments below. There are other Pictos from like the dragon that you can get that are also extremely powerful, but I don't even think MAELLE needs them. She just needs the ability to break hit marked, and also to get as much damage out as possible, Stendhal, Momentum Strike, and Percee. So if this was useful, hit the subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.